Good morning, everyone. Today we are going to look at actually graphing, and this is going to be graphing with a T-chart. And we're going to learn a few different methods. This is the first, and oftentimes the favorite for students. So the heart of this one is that when you are trying to graph a line, any line, all you need to do to graph it is have 2 points. So for instance, if I knew that this point and this point were on a line, all I would need to then do is lay my ruler over those 2 points, and I would have myself the whole line. A lot of times I like to find a third point that should also be on the line, just because it will confirm that I drew my line in right and my ruler didn't get bumped or something, which can sometimes happen when you only have 2 points. But again, all you need in order to graph are 2 points with a bonus third just to check for accuracy. Well, why that's important is because that means if we want to graph a line, which, hey, we definitely do, and if you don't, well, you're going to have to fake it for me. If you want to graph a line, it means all you need are a few points that are on the line. And remember, a T-chart shows us what points are on the line, because a T-chart gives us solutions, and points are just solutions. Now, what I'm going to have you guys do is I'm still going to have you guys find function form. Technically, you guys can create a T-chart using only like this original one. However, it's nice to practice solving for function form, so we're going to do that first. And it does make creating the T-chart go a little bit faster because you're not solving every single time for a variable. So let's start by rewriting that so that we have something to work with. Now again, I'm going to pay attention to my left versus my right side, and I want to get y by itself. So I'm going to add 3x to both sides to try to move that 3x away from my y. And I'm going to get y is equal to, well, keep that x in front, because remember, in our function form, I have y equals mx plus b. So I have something like this, that x value with a number in front coming first. So I have that positive 3x plus a positive 2, and that looks very similar to my function form. Now, I can create a T-chart using that. Let's pick some values for x. And don't forget that you can really pick any value you want for x and use it to solve for y. But you're going to want to pick some that you can definitely fit on your graph. So I'm going to go with some of the easy ones. I'm going to go with 0, 1, and 2. And since I only need to find 3 points that work, I'm only going to need to do this 3 times. 2 to get that exact line, and a third point to check for accuracy. So I'm going to start with 0. What is x when y is 0? Well, I can take what I just found up here, and that's going to give me y is equal to 3 times whatever x is plus 2. Well, in this case, I want my x to be 0. Well, 3 times 0 is 0, plus 2 is 2. So that means what I have here is y is equal to 2. So when x is 0, y has to be 2, or the solution won't work. And of course, you can always check that against your other equation to double check that, hey, you solved these right. Negative 3 times 0 plus 2 is equal to 2? Yes, it is, because that's going to be 2 equals 2. Let's go ahead and do that for our next point then. Let's find another point. And we have x is equal to 0. So again, I'm going to take my original formula, y equals 3 times whatever x is plus 2. And again, I'm returning each time to that formula. And I'm going to put in the x value that I want to work with. And I want to work with 1, because that's what I have in my T-chart. And that's going to give me 3 plus 2 is equal to y. Therefore, y is equal to 5. So when x is 1, y equals 5. Do this one more time with our final point, y equals 3 times x plus 2. Again, returning to that formula. And since I know that x in this case is 2, that's the value I picked, I'm going to end up with y is equal to, well, 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 2 is 8. Therefore, y equals 8. All right, so now I have a filled-in t-chart with 3 values. You can find more. You just only need. So what do I do with that t-chart? Well, this is where plotting points comes into play. So remember how each one of these is a solution, but each one of these is also a relationship between x and y. So that means that each one of these is a coordinate. So this first one's saying when x is at 0, y is going to be at 2. So I can go 0 over on my x-axis, I can go 2 up on my y-axis, and I'll have that first point 0, 2. Already, that's 1 point on the graph, and I can kind of make a check mark to mark my progress. Next, when x is 1, y is equal to 5. So if x is 1, y is going to go all the way up to 5, right? And that's my second point done. My third point is when x is 2, so when I go over 2, y is going to be 8, so I'm going to go up 8. And that's my third point. Now there's a few things to watch for when you do this. It's now time to connect those points that I have plotted to get my final answer. And when you're doing this, you have to make sure that you put the ruler on very carefully. You want to go exactly through those points. And I made my points quite large. You might want to go a little bit smaller than that, just so that you can really see that you're hitting dead center where you want to be. You also want to make sure that you put arrows on both sides, because while we found 3 solutions here, these solutions will go on and on and on, because I can continue to take higher x values. Like I could put 13 in for x, and I'll find a y value that's really large when I put it into the equation, and that would be a point on the graph if we kind of like zoomed out, right? But that's why those arrows are important, because they tell you that this line hasn't stopped when you've hit the edge of this graph. The other thing to watch for when you're doing this is make sure that all of your points stick on your line. This is not like the scatter plot that we did earlier. So earlier when we had a scatter plot, it looked something like this, and you estimated a line that went through it. However, we know that what we're doing with this is we're given a line, y equals 3x plus 2, and we want to find what that line looks like. And we did that by finding a bunch of points. And all of those points should make a straight line. If you get one that's off to the side, it means something went wrong. So go back and redo that algebra. That is really all it takes to do a T-chart graphing. What I'm going to have you guys do is use your answers from yesterday. Use your answers from yesterday where you had those 3 T-charts. Oh, that's not the one with all the T-charts. You had those 3 T-charts that we found. I want you to just graph 1 and 2. So graph 1 and 2. You guys can use graph paper from a previous assignment, provided you kind of like make it very clear which ones you're actually graphing. And you'll want to be careful with your scales. This one might be a little bit harder to work with because you are working with decimals. You can always go up by thirds. That is okay if you want to change your scale. However, whatever you guys work with is fine. Just make sure it's neat and tidy. Take a picture of that, those 2 graphs that you made, turn it in, and that's it for today. Have a wonderful one.